Welcome everybody to MogTalk. If you guys are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage raiding to Chocobo racing. And we have some very special guests with us to talk about the JP scene as they won a recent world race. And we're doing translations today. And it's going to be a little bit awkward for a second while we figure out all the back and forth. We'll let Chiela, our translator today, go ahead and translate that.
皆さん、MogTalk へようこそ。今日は、MogTalk は、全部のトピックに関して、レ式から、チョコボレースまで、全部話して、今日は、レイドレースに関して話しますから、みんなよろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
And so today, of course, there's been a lot of discussion. A lot of people are familiar with Lucrezia from the past, from their recent victory, or well, their victories before. But we have some news with a victory from Criterion Savage, the most recent one, with Lucrezia as well, and we've seen them a lot in the races recently too. Before we go too much further, we have 4 members. Maybe a 5th one will show up a little bit. But 4 of them, I'll have them introduce themselves real quick, just so you know who they are.
OK。今日は、以前から、ルクレイジアに関して、ヒカさんはもちろん、知っていますが、一番最近の、アロアロ島レ式は、ワールドファーストの、買って、今日、ルクレイジアの4人、多分5人が、来るけど、もう1人は来るかどうか、まだわかりませんが、今日、そのレースに関して話して、でも、まず、自己紹介をお願いします。
はい、じゃあ自分からいきますね。はい。リーダーをしているダク・ウィスユヤと申します。知らない人たちもいると思うんですけど、ルクレーツィアは2013年から2015年ぐらい、本当にこのゲームの初期に作ったチームで、その時から活動しています。その時のメンバー、その時からやってるメンバーは多分自分とロロミオしかいないんですけど、はい、そんな感じです。昔からやってます。はい、よろしくお願いします。はい。
So first, for the first self-introduction, we have Darkwiz Yuya, who has been working on Lucrezia from a very long time ago, and from 2013 actually started Lucrezia, and has been continuing to do races for a really long time, and is now starting to kind of like build up the world race scene and continue on working on that, and says, nice to meet everybody. Thank you for having me today. はい、次の自己紹介をお願いします。
じゃあ次、アークです。今回のアロアル島は飛行士で攻略しました。レイドレースは天国編から初めて参加して、その時にルクレチャに入ったって感じです。
So Ark is next, and they've been raiding ever since Heavensward, and has been part of Lucrezia since then, I believe. And yeah, very excited to be here as well, and nice to meet everybody.
はい。
次の自己紹介をお願いします。
はい、じゃあ自分、はい、コルトンと言います。はい、アラロトは学者で攻略していました。アクスルクレチャには、パンデモニウム天国編で加入して、そこで初めてレースに参加しました。よろしくお願いします。
All right, Quarton is next, and played Scholar for Alo Savage, and has been doing racing with Lucrezia ever since Pandemonium. That was when he first started.
Nice.
はい、最後に、鬼岸さん。
はい。
お願いします。
鬼岸です。召喚士で今回は攻略しました。 で、皆さんと同じく天国編からレースに参加しています。レイド自体は行月から始めました。よろしくお願いします。
So Onigishi is the last person and joined the Alo Alo race as summoner, and started at the same time as Arc as well, and started to world race during Endwalker.
Excellent. So, some newer players and some older players, it seems like, with the world race.
Yeah, レースの中で、プレイヤーたちは、ちょっと、初心者と、もう経験者のミックスがありそうですね。
そうですね。
そうで
Yes,
すね
that's correct. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. It's weird when we say older players now and newer players. Older players sometimes we say are like Heavensward and A Realm Reborn. That's ancient old. I mean, when you say someone's a newer player in Shadowbringers, it feels kind of weird. But I guess maybe in context that's a little bit true.
そう、初心者と経験者、について、ちょっと複雑な、考えですね。最近、漆黒のヴィランズは初心者かどうかはちょっと、考えなきゃいけませんけど、もちろん、2013年から、それは本当に経験者ですね。
Yeah. Okay. But before we go too much further, there is one other person to introduce himself, of course, Chiela, who's been on the show before. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself in English and then Japanese afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all again. As Frosty said, this is my second time on MogTalk. The first time I was a normal guest and I was talking about Deep Dungeon with Angelus, Meiji, and Ellie about the new Eureka Orthos. But this time I will be here acting as a translator between Lucrezia and MogTalk Frosty. So yeah, hopefully I will do a good job and we can get everything all sorted out. Thank you so much for having me, Frosty. All right, now I'll say it in Japanese. 今日の、通訳者、チーラと申します。今日、以前、MogTalk で、参加しましたけど、その時、オールトスヨレカについて、ソロディープダンチに関して、ゲストとして話して、でも今回は、もちろん、翻訳するから、今回はもうちょっと特別な役割になりますから、希望としては、本当に、しっかりに翻訳できると嬉しいです。よろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
お願いし
よろ
ま
しくお願い
す。
します。
お願いします。
Okay. Now let's get into the really fun stuff. We have a lot of questions to ask today, and we're gonna see. Hopefully, a show won't be 6 hours. Hopefully, it'll be shorter. We'll go for much shorter if we can. But we do have a good amount of questions. And I'll start with the very first question, which is Lucrezia as being, again, one of those a lot of veteran players are very familiar with, especially in the overseas, like NA, EU, anyone in the world race scene knows who Lucrezia is. But there was a moment where there wasn't a lot of activity from Lucrezia in general until the more recent races. What was the story behind bringing Lucrezia kind of back in the world race scene?
じゃあ、始めましょうか。最初の質問として、ルクレイジアという名前は、海外のベテランヒカさんはよく知っていますが、最近のレースまであんまり活動していませんでしたね。ルクレイジアがなぜ今戻ってきたのか、何か理由があるのでしょうか？
OK。戻ってきた理由としては、海外で言うとワールドレース、レイドレースに興味があったり、参加したいっていう、そういうプレイヤーたちがすごく多くいるっていうことを知って、で、やりたいっていう気持ちだけだと、どうしても大変で、レイドレースのチームを作るっていうことも参加するっていうことも日本では結構ハードルが高い ことなんですね。で、まあ、やっぱりでも、そういうやりたいっていう人のために、まあ、ルクレツィアっていうチームがもともとあったから、それを、まあ、また再開して、そういう人たちの受け皿っていうか、コミュニティを、まあ、作ろうと思って、まあ、活動再開しました。
Okay, so for the reason that Lucrezia is coming back is we were really interested in being back in the world race scene, and we felt like we were noticing that there's quite a lot of players that want to raid. However, in Japan especially, there's a lot of hurdles to be able to actually join that world race in Japan. So Wiz's like idea was that they wanted to really be able to create a team and a community that would allow for that to happen and to be able to create like multiple opportunities for people in Japan to come together and raid.
That's awesome. From my previous understanding, a lot of the world race scene in Japan has been done in like link shells. And they would join groups and just figure out who, I guess, were the best players for those link shells and move forward. Lucrezia is the only memorable, like, actual, like, free company organization in that manner. So, I don't know, I guess maybe, are there other free companies or organizations maybe following lead in Japan, or is it still mostly just link shells and you're the only independent kind of free company trying for world race over in Japan right now?
フラッシーさん以前の理解として、ワールドレースに関して、まあ、日本では、リンクシェルをよく使って、そこで、まあ、グループを見つけて、一番、まあ、いいプレイヤーは誰かと、判断して、まあ、先に進んで、まあ、そんな流れがありましたけど、今まで、ルクレイジアは、まあ、その中で、フリーカンパニーの、まあ、ワールドレースのためのフリーカンパニーだけ、存在しますから、まあ、ルクレイジアのチームの認識の中で、別の、フリーカンパニー、まあ、レースのためのフリーカンパニーが、ありますか？リンクシェルだけありますか？
ルクレッツィアの中でってことかな。
そうそうそう、はい。
難しいな。フリーカンパニー自体はあるんだけど、それは別に機能してなくて、名前だけあるっていう感じで、普段はリンクシェルで活動しているっていう答えで合ってるのかな。
So it's kind of difficult to answer because it's all sort of separate. But there are some free companies out there, but mainly it's all done by Link Shell still.
Okay. All right. Well, we might get into that a little bit more later too, because I do have a couple of questions that are centered around just the world race scene in Japan. But another question, of course, this is one of the key things when I think of Lucrezia is their return, but they're also returning while streaming the content, which has been a huge point of discussion between all the world race teams. A lot of people are against it or for it for different reasons. What was their decision behind actually streaming their progression, and how do they feel, just streaming as a whole in the world race scene? Or they think that's the way it should be done, or so on.
レードレースチームたちの中で、配信するかどうかはよく議論してます。ルクレイジアのチームはレースの進行を配信する判断についてどうやって決定しましたか？全体的に、レースの配信することに関してどう思いますか？
まずチームを再結成するにあたって、海外では何ていうのか分かんないけど、外部ツール、アクトだったり、ランチャーだったりっていうのをもう絶対に使用することを禁止にしたんですけども、結局それをしてないっていうことを証明するには、レイドレースに参加しながらそれを使ってないっていうことを証明するには配信するしか今のところ方法がなくて、それでも使ってるよっていう人はいるんだけど、 使ってるんじゃないのっていう人もいるんだけど、でもまあ少なからずそれで、チートのようなものは使ってないっていうことの証明にはなるから、まあ配信することを決意しました。でまた配信することに関しては他のチームもぜひしてほしいなって思ってて、まあ自分は普通にレイドレースを見ることも好きだし、観戦するのも好きだし、もっと他のプレイヤーたちにレイドレースの良さを知ってもらいたいっていうのもあるから配信してるっていう部分もあります。
ありがとうございます。
はい。
Okay, so for this, there's a number of reasons, but the main one for Wiz is that when reforming the team, they really wanted to prohibit the use of external tools. And he felt like basically if they're streaming, then that kind of gives a bit of credibility and a bit of like saying, okay, we're not using external tools to be racing this way. And even though like sometimes it can be said that external tools can be used while streaming, he felt like that would be kind of like the proof that they're not using any kinds of cheats, because it is strictly forbidden in Lucrezia to use any sort of external tools, even ACT or launcher or anything like that. For him as well, he's hoping that more teams will actually stream their races, because he really likes watching them and he thinks that it's really amazing to watch the progress. And he really wants both viewers and players to know how great those races are. So that's another reason why he wants Lucrezia to stream, and for other players to stream as well.
Okay. That's actually very interesting, because a lot of raiders really depend on ACT just to add value to the game for themselves. Is the main reason that they're kind of against like ACT and some of these other third-party programs that maybe not game-breaking, but they're obviously third-party tools? Is that mostly because of kind of Yoshida's words on it and everything else, or is there another reason they are avoiding ACT?
その、ポイントはすごい面白いから、まあ、海外と、日本では、ACT はよく、頼っていますから、レイドのためによく頼っていますから、それについて、なぜ、そこで、禁止していますか？その外部ツール、ACT でも、本当に禁止していますか？
まあもともとやっぱりプロデューサーも使用することは許してないし、日本のコミュニティではモッドとかそういう文化があんまりなんだろう、良くないとされてるのが多くて、でやっぱりそれを特にぶっちゃけて言っちゃうと、実際はみんな使ってるんだけど、表に立ってる人が表に立って配信してたりとかレイドレースしてたりする人たちが使ってることをあんまり許してないというか裏で使ってる人たちはみんないっぱいいるけど表に立って使うなよみたいな感じだけど、自分たちはそれでも裏でも使ってないし、練習の時から普段から配信しながらやってるから、それを証明しない、使ってないっていうことの証明をしながら配信していきたいと思ってるっていう。
わかりました。
使ってない。
どうぞ。
ちょっと使ってない理由どうなんだろう。そうですね。プロデューサーが使っちゃいけないって言ってるから、使わないが一番明確な理由かな。
わかりました。ありがとうございます。Okay, so for the main reason why Lucrezia doesn't want to use it is because essentially that Yoshi P, as the producer, said that it's not allowed. And so they feel like because of that, for stuff like the World Race and for rating in general, it should not be used. Also, like, there's a bit of culture in Japan that it's like not great to use it and it shouldn't really be allowed. And especially during the World Race, he feels like it's better to not use it, to make it kind of like a more level playing field. And that's a big reason why he wants to stream everything, is to kind of like prove that there is not the use of those tools.
Okay. There's a lot of questions I can ask about that because that's a very interesting subject for a lot of players. But
Yes.
I guess I'll try to ask just one more kind of question in that direction. If, let's say, Yoshida or Square Enix, they said something along the lines, or they implemented things that would allow DPS meters within the game, if they would allow some of the functions that are happening in these tools, would they be okay with those tools like that existing in the game? Is it mostly just because of the TOS reasons over everything else? Or do they have any urge at all for some of these tools to actually exist legitimately within the game, I guess, if that makes any sense.
そうですね。まあ、この話題に関して、もう一つ質問があるんですが、まあ、吉田さんとか、スクエアエネックスとか、まあ、ACT を、ゲームに、実装すればどうですか？その、まあ、外部ツールだけの、まあ、気持ち悪い感じがあるんですか？ゲーム、まあ、自然に、ゲームにあればどうですか？
あってほしいと思うし、まあ実装できるならしてほしいっていうのは正直な気持ち。他の人たちはちょっと分かんないけど、どうですか他の人は。実際あった方が嬉しい。メーターは DPS メーターは。
DPS メーターは僕はなくてもなんかあんまり気にならないです。ACT の明確な強みはダメージなどの解析におけるところだと思ってるので、それは実装難しいんじゃないかなと思ってます。
じゃあ、ちょっと翻訳してもいいですか？すいません。
そうですね。
あとで、もうちょっと、答えても大丈夫ですけど。Okay, I'm gonna just translate the first two answers and then I'll let the rest of them speak, just so that I don't get too lost.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Wiz said that he would prefer having something like that in the game, like that it would be nice to have those types of meters, but then asked the rest of the team their thoughts. And Onigishi said that he doesn't really mind if there's not a DPS meter in game, like doesn't really feel like it's necessarily the most important thing, and felt like maybe it's actually hard to like implement into the game in a way that ACT is like, so wondering if it's actually necessary or not.
Okay.
じゃあ、コートンとアークさんどうぞ、すいません。
まあ、そうですね。まあ、あるべきかというと話が難しくなってしまうと思うんですけど、まあ、あるのであれば、もちろん自分は使いますし、結局レースっていうのは、なんか、公式側から提供されたものを使って公平に戦うっていうのが一番重要なところだと思いますので、まあ、もし公式から提供されるのであれば、積極的に使っていこうとは思っています。
DPS が見れれば、単純に上達の近道にもなるし、まあ、ないよりは、あった方がいいかな、あれなら。
ありがとうございます。じゃあ、okay. It's hard to say like if it should be there from Cordon's perspective, but it would be nice for the race and could help with like, you know, figuring things out and what they should be doing with like damage and stuff like that. So in that sense, it could be really good. And Ark also said like kind of similarly along those lines, it could help with like understanding like what they're doing for their DPS and like make the that kind of improvement for the world race as well.
Okay. Roro can introduce himself real quick.
Okay. 考えながらロロミを自己紹介した方がいいかなと思ってて、どうぞ。
OK? はい。ロロミオです。すいません。寝坊しました。
全然大丈夫です。Okay, so this is Lolo Mio, and he slept in a little bit and wanted to say sorry for that.
It's okay. Welcome. Hi.
今どこまで行ったんや。
今は2だね。
はい、そうそう。
OK。
そう、まだに。
OK。
Rono Mio was just asking how far we've gotten, and so we were just saying to the second question. Yeah, we're only on the second question.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 3. You guys have been one thing about Lucrezia that's very interesting. A lot of teams are just one team right now. There's not. I mean, their static will maybe split into a couple of different ones, but we've noticed Lucrezia seems to have a lot more teams than other groups going, and other. No one has Lucrezia A, Lucrezia B, Lucrezia C, and so. Is that something they plan to continue to grow and have even more D, E, F, G, and just go on more and more, or is there like a limit to it? Is the first question.
普段は、レイドチームの中で、一つのチームだけ、ありますけど、現在、複数、ルクレイジアの中で、複数チームが、レースに参加してます。これから伸びる予定はありますか？例えば、正しいチーム、ルクレイジア C、D、E、F とか、追加する予定がありますか？
今のとこは予定はなくて、基本的に8人かける2パーティーの16人で活動していこうかなっていう思ってるのが基本ベースであって、なのでアロアロ島とかに関しては4人だから、ABCD って感じで4つに分けられてるだけだけど、8人コンテンツだったら2つのチームって感じで活動してますね。
ありがとうございます。So currently there's no plans to. Lucrezia has, of course, there's 8 people per raid group. And so currently Lucrezia has 16 total people, which means 2 groups for like Savage and Ultimate. But of course for Alolo, there's 4 people per. So that's why they're actually like A, B, C, D teams, because they actually like split up their raid teams into like 4 groups of 4.
Right.
If I'm doing the math right. Yeah,
that's right. Okay. So I guess the other question to go into that a little bit more, they have 16 people that actually play and are like in fighting and like actually doing, I guess, the fight. And then how many members do they have like helping on the outside with those teams?
もちろん、レイドチームの中で16人がいる、8人いて、でもその以外、のチームメンバーは何人ですか？例えば、ギミックを、チェックするとか、その、戦いの流れとか、何人いますか？
今は何人とかかな？自分含めてサポートメンバーって呼んでるんですけど、サポートメンバーは7人います。
はい、わかりました。Right now, there are 7 support members besides Whis. So Whis is like leading, and then there's 7 people that will actually. So it's like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all those bands pass.
So 7 and Whis, that's Lucrezia C. One whole group theirself too, yeah?
So, Lucrezia C は、Whis さんと、その他の7人は、3番目のチームが作れるみたい。
そうですね。
ちょっと冗談だけど。
頑張ればできそう。
If we tried, we could actually do it.
Stuff. Well, to go on that question a little bit more too, when the groups are actually doing the race, are they working kind of together to push forward, or are they kind of separate information-wise and everything else as they're working together? Or is it the 2 teams are kind of working separately, then the 7 people on top kind of filter information equally to the 2? Like, how does that dynamic work?
ルクレイジアのチームたちは、一緒に活動してますか？その、8人と8人とか、例えば、情報を共有しますか？それとも別々で進行しますか？
られるんだったら他の人も答えてもらっていいよ。
基本はその16人で混ぜて練習したりとか、あとは今回のアラウロトだったら、一番進んでた僕らの情報を他のパーティーに渡したりみたいな 攻略方法でやってますね。
Arigatou gozaimasu. Yeah, so normally all 16 people practice together and also share information with each other. And especially for like this time with Alo Alo, like they're all sharing information and like things that they're finding out the mechanics, like how to actually proceed in the fight together so that they can work together to continue forward.
Okay. I guess another question on that is how do they decide who is Lucrezia A and who is Lucrezia B?
Okay. そのチームのメンバーたちの決める、その判断についてどうやって決めますか？
基本的にはサポートメンバーだったり自分だったりで話し合って上手い人、そのワールドファースト取れるメンバーを選出しているって感じですね。
Okay, so normally they like basically have a bunch of conversations with each other between like the people on the team and also the support members, the ones that are behind the scenes helping out, and then based on that they kind of like make a decision of who should be on those world racing teams. So it's all like a lot of conversations and figuring that out together.
Okay. All right. So now that we have that done, I won't ask big questions again after. We'll go to number 4, okay? We'll keep a good flow. And so thank you for, of course, letting us know a little bit more about Lucrezia. I do want to give you guys a congratulations again for Criterion, because that was a really impressive, and everyone could see your team was the most organized and most, I guess, it felt like you guys were taking it very seriously. And so we were following the progress for your teams there very closely. Just in general, after completing the content, though, what do your teams think about the Criterion in terms of World Race?
じゃあ、ルクレイシアに関して、ありがとうございます。よく習いました。でも、これから、もちろん、アナザーダンジョンに関して、話したいと思います。もちろん、アロアロ島、霊式は、ワールドファーストで勝っておめでとうございます。海外では、みんなは、リクレイジアのチームは、本当に、よく活動して、また、真面目に、進行しましたから、本当に、MogTalkで、チームの進行は、よく見てて、すごい面白かったと思いますけど、コンテンツが終わった後、チームたちは、アナザーダンジョンに関して、ワールドレースのために、アナザーダンジョンに関してどう思いますか？
アナザーダンジョンの4人レース式のレースが
はい、そうです。
そうだよね。レースとしてどうなのって話だね。
はい、そうです。はい。
いいよ、これ。
はい、そうですね。普通の8人コンテンツの例式であれば、最低のクリアタイムが短くても15時間とか、ですだったらもう1週間とかかかってしまうのが普通だと思っているんですけど、そうですね。アナザーダンジョンであれば、基本的にはそれよりも短くて、自分のように、レードレース自体がそんなに経験がなくて、あとは長期間のプレイにも慣れていないような人にとっては結構取り組みやすいような内容になっていると思っていて、割とレードレースに対して不慣れで新参の人にとってはとっつきやすいようなコンテンツになっていて、結構ありがたいかなというふうに思います。
ありがとうございました。先に、その答えを翻訳します。Okay. So for Corton, for like 8-man Savage and stuff like that, obviously the races take quite a bit longer. And so for the Criterion race, it was much shorter than that. And he feels like for people that aren't as experienced in world races, it's really good And it's like a really great way to learn about how to world race and how to like actually enter into that territory of world racing that might be a little bit harder if you're doing like 8-man Savage as the starting point.
Okay.
他の人の答えありますか? I'm just asking if there's anyone else who wants to answer. Yeah.
誰か行く？
誰でも、はい。
言っとくか。
はい
コルトンとほぼほぼ同じ意見なんですけど、サベージレイドやアルティメットレイドとは違った部分のうまさを求められていて、いいんじゃないかなって思いますね。あと、コルトンも言ってたけど、長時間の、活動にならないんで、それがすごいおっさんにはありがたいですね。
ありがとうございます。So, yeah, Doromio kind of is echoing what Corton said, that it's really nice that, like, in terms of, Savage or Ultimate, it's going to take a lot longer for the world race to happen. And yeah, he's really grateful to just have a bit of a shorter time. So it doesn't take up so much, free time to actually have the world race be completed.
Okay. And I guess anyone else?
他の誰か、答えありますか? しなくても全然大丈夫。
おおむね同じです。
同じ。Okay, yeah, they're kind of just all saying
all the same.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
As someone who does a lot of the world race stuff, I do agree 100% that it makes a good entry race, very quick, done within with at least 12 hours is max. And so I think it's pretty good to have this as part of the race. At first, I thought maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to do it because it's too quick. But I'm glad I have started doing this, and I will probably continue to do this throughout the next expansion as well.
Okay, let me translate that. So, フロッシーさんは、レードレースの、キャストとして、本当に、エントリー、初心者のためは、本当にいいことだと思って、12時間以内、終わるのはすごい、よくて、最初に、フロッシーさんは、早すぎるから、レースに含むかどうかは、ちょっと迷ってて、でも、始めるのは本当に、良かったから、次の拡張からも、レースに含めるつもりです。
それはありがたいですね。
They're all saying that they think that's great, and they're grateful that you're going to continue to include it for the next expansion too.
Good. Just a quick side question before going more into Criterion. But now we have Criterion Savage and Ultimate. Is there anything else they would want to see as a world race within Final Fantasy XIV?
もう一つの質問として、今は、アナザーダンジョンと、霊式と絶のレースがあるんですが、Final Fantasy XIV コンテンツの中で、何か、他の、レードレースの中で、含めた方がいいありますか？コンテンツとして。
あるかな。
ディープダンジョンのソロクリアとかは結構気になりますね。
確かに
私もそう思う。ディープダンジョン好きだ。ディープダンジョンソロ好きですから。Yeah, I think you probably caught that. But,
I caught it.
Yeah, they hope for Deep Dungeon Solo to be included in some way, which I have an opinion on too.
Just to let them know, if possible, depending on what Square Enix releases patch-wise, for example, if they release Deep Dungeon and Savage at the same time, only a Savage race will happen. But if they have it separated out, I do plan the next Deep Dungeon solo world race to actually happen. I am going to try to make that happen.
もし、同じタイミングで、霊式とディープダンジョンが、リリースされたら、もちろん、まあ、霊式がプライオリティですけど、ディープダンジョンは、まあ、他のパッチでリリースすれば、もちろん、まあ、レースをやりたいと思います。
うんうんうん。
ありがとうございます。
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good, good.
Thank you from me too. I would be excited for that.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. I'm really sad I didn't do Eureka Orthos. And if I could go back in time, I would do it.
うん。
I don't know. You could, yeah, translate that. Real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
オルトスよりかの、レース、まあ、もちろん、できれば、レースも、キャストしたいんですけど、まあ、ちょっと、今回やらなかったから、まあ、ちょっと後悔してますけど、まあ、今度のディープダンジョンが、リリースされるとき、絶対にやります。
お
お
ー。
ー。
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
ルクレとしても参加するやっぱ。
BD か。
ソロソロか。
気が。
そう、すごい楽しいから、やらなかったらやってみて。私よくやってますから。They're saying like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it solo, and I'm trying to convince them because obviously I love
yes.
Deep Dungeon solo.
Solo is the most exciting.
I gotta rep the Deep Dungeon crew.
Yeah.
ファームがなかったらな。やるんだけどなって感じやね。
うん
まず
パーティー部門とかも。パーティー部門とかなら、ちょっと敷居下がるかな。
ソロ部門とか、まあ、部門を作っても面白そう。
Okay, so they're saying like, well, there's some kind of like wondering about solo versus like a party mode.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking it could be interesting as well to like stream the race for the first party to get there too. So because there's like some interesting stuff you could do with like party makeup and things like that to you know try and get there first. So
sometimes it's harder in a party.
that's actually true. たまにソロの方が簡単だと、まあフラッシーさんがだと思います。
Okay. Back to Criterion.
Yeah. No more Deep Dungeon.
Yeah. So, in the recent content, everything, of course, Criterion's a new thing that was introduced in Endwalker. But in the most recent one, you know, what did they like about the content just as players? Not in terms of the world race, but just as players doing the content. What do they enjoy about it?
Okay. まあ、一番最新の、まあ、アロアロ島、の中で、まあ、普通のヒカセンとして、まあ、レースじゃなくて普通のヒカセンとして、好きな、部分は何でしたか？その、アロアロとか、まあ、アナザーダンジョン全体的に。
一般の非課線として。
はい、そうです。
難しい。
難しいです
形
ね。
式だったら好きとか
そ
は
う。
あるけど。
So they're saying it's a little they're saying it's a little difficult to just answer as like a normal like warrior of light.
Oh, okay.
割とそうですね、なんか4人用コンテンツだと8人用コンテンツじゃできないようなやつとかが結構、ギミックが結構多いなって思って、例えば、六根線だと、レイスが出てくるやつとか、あとは、イボスのトーンのやつとか、ああいう結構気合で頑張るようなやつっていうのは、8人用コンテンツだとなかなかないと思うので、結構、4人用コンテンツでああいうのが出てくると結構見新しくてやって楽しいですかね。
ありがとうございます。So, Corton is saying that essentially, like, what he really liked about this is that, of course, you know, you can't have 8 people come into this. It's a 4-person type of content, and he felt like the content and the mechanics were quite interesting. for this, and there was like a different kind of challenge for it being only 4 people rather than 8, and he really liked that kind of feeling of the 4-person versus 8 for this.
Okay. Do they want to see more difficult, like kind of in context of Criterion, but not the exact same thing, but in 4-man content, the dungeons are very, very easy that come out and get released. Do they have any desire to see those be more difficult, or have a hard mode version of the dungeons that are released?
Okay. Another Dungeon 以外の、4人コンテンツについて、例えば普通の、ストーリーダンジョンとか、今まですごい簡単なコンテンツですから、どうですか？そのコンテンツはもうちょっと難しくなった方がいいとか？
いや
ストーリーは簡単な方がいいんじゃないかな。
ストーリーの方は簡単であるべき。
So the general consensus is that it's better for the story content, like those story dungeons, to be easier rather than harder.
Oh, okay. But, you know, everything's story.
すべてはストーリー。
But okay. So no extreme dungeon, like, you know, have normal mode raid and then like normal mode dungeon and savage dungeon, nothing like that.
ストーリーダンジョンの、霊式、バージョンはどうですか？
なるほど。あったら面白いと思うけど、求められてるかはわからないですね。
So they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. So basically, like having some kind of savage version of the story dungeon could be interesting, but it's not like they're really necessarily hoping for it.
Okay. I'm hoping for it. Okay, all right. Well, back to Criterion. We'll get off that tangent for a little bit. So, in terms of doing Criterion, again, kind of as players, and after seeing it 3 times in a row, we're going to have more Criterion dungeons in the next expansion. Do they have anything they would like to say towards Square Enix about changes they should maybe make towards this type of content to make it better in the next expansion?
そうですね。次の拡張もちろん、アナザーダンジョンのコンテンツが、リリース予定はありますけど、ルクレイジアたちにとって、スクエア・エニックスは、このコンテンツを改善するために、何か、やるべきことはありますか？
誰が行く？
じゃあ
どうぞ。
実装のタイミングが結構ちょっと困ってる感じがあって、8周目なんで実質ジョブの選択肢が霊式で装備を集めたジョブしかないっていうのがかなり苦しいですね。
わかりました。Okay, so Onigishi-san is saying that the timing is kind of frustrating, like the release timing is frustrating for him, and I agree with this because essentially, like at this point, with the way that it lines up with Savage, you can really only have one job geared up enough to be able to go into it, and they don't like that. Like they want to be able to have multiple jobs.
Okay.
So they want to like that timing to change or something to change about that so that it's possible for multiple jobs to go in.
I'm hoping personally that this was kind of an experimental timing that they're doing with it, and they'll start pacing it between savages instead of doing, you know, one just randomly and then at the end of the expansion doing 2 more. I hope that it's more paced in there where it could work with gear and you can have multiple choices. I also hope that they have better gearing options just overall in the future to make it easier to gear up jobs quicker. That has been a huge conversation on MogTalk many times, is improving the overall gearing system. for alts and different jobs.
うん。フロッシーさんとして、まあ、今回は、ちょっと、実験みたいな、まあ、この拡張の中で、その、実装タイミングはちょっと実験みたいな感じと希望してて、まあ、次の、拡張として、そのペーシングはもうちょっと、自然になった方がいいかなと思ってて、まあもちろん、今まで、その、まあ別のジョブをやるための、ギーリングはすごい、まあ大変ですから、これから、そのシステムも変えた方がいいかなと思ってて、今まで、MogTalkで、よく会話してた、その、まあ、どうやって、まあ、別のジョブ、プレイできるようになるとか、その、会話がよくあってて。どう思いますかそのギーリングシステムとかに関して。
ちょっとギーリングシステムがよく分かってないところが。
装備のファーム的な。
あ、はい。すいません。
ああ、はい。あ、ギアリング、あ、オッケーオッケー。
ギアね。
はい。すいませんでした。日本語どうしなかった。すいません。
俺たちの耳が悪い。
実際、ジョブ数はどんどん増えているのに、終戦ゲトークンの獲得数とかは据え置きだったりしているのは、ちょっと、結構、限界が来ているよなという感じはありますね。
Yeah, so yeah, at this point they really feel like because there's so many jobs that are getting added, it's making it harder and harder to gear, which is another issue as well. And of course, we're getting 2 more jobs in Dawn Trail, so that's going to continue to become an issue.
Too many jobs.
ジョブ多すぎる。
Just real quick, did they expect Viper to be a new job? Were they anticipating anything like that, or is it a complete surprise for them as well?
バイパーが、新しいジョブに関して、どうでしたかその期待はありましたかびっくりしましたか
いやー、びっくりしましたね。
they were surprised.
全員びっくりしたでしょ。
Everyone was surprised.
Okay. Just making sure. Worldwide surprise.
世界中みんなびっくりしました。
Okay. Okay. Well, then I also want to talk about other things too. Going into kind of the world race side of things. I guess it's a good time to start talking about the Japan side of the world race because it's something. Unfortunately, usually there's like the language barrier and it's really difficult. Fortunately, we have Chiela right now to help with that. But it's every time we do the world race, it's very exciting because it feels like everyone in the world who plays Final Fantasy XIV comes together and just kind of watches this content and has fun with it. But we don't usually get as much of the perspective and feedback from the side in Japan. What does the Japanese community think about the world race just in general?
答えにくいやつから。
そうですね。じゃあ、まあ、もちろん、その、ワールドレース、の側、まあ、海外と日本の側の、ギャップが、まあ、もちろん、まあ、言語ギャップがすごい多くて、でも、まあ、レースの時、みんなは、集めて、コンテンツを見て、本当に、まあ、楽しんでて、でもまあもちろん、日本側の、考えとか、フィードバックとか、そのレースに関してフィードバックとかはあんまりないですから、日本のコミュニティは、そのレースに関してどう思いますか
これ、誰が行く
誰でも。
誰でも、はい。
思ったこと言っていいと
絶ア歴とかが結構盛り上がってたけど、そこからだんだん あんまり盛り上がってない感じはするかな。
粒子
これは
は一応ストーリーがあれだったから、
うん
ある程度盛り上がっていたような気はするけれど。
ピークを過ぎた感じがあるってこと？
ですかね。
まあ、そ
うん。
本当に盛り上がってない？
いや、どうかな。観戦してる人たちは、まあ、いつも通り盛り上がってる気がする。
うん。
ただ、プレイしてる層で、FF14 やってるけど、レイドにあまり関心がないっていう人たちが多くなってきた気がする。
ああ、そっか。
無関心な層が増えたかも。
わかりました。Okay, that's pretty interesting. So, what they're saying is like essentially the Japanese community is kind of split between those that care about raid, like, and those that do not care about raid. I mean, it's probably pretty similar to the
Right.
like the overseas community as well. But essentially, those that are, of course, very interested in it will like come and join the race and watch. But those that are not interested generally just don't like participate at all, and they don't really care about it. The main difference was for Dragon Song's Reprise because of the story that was involved with that. Like they saw more people coming in because of the fact that it was like the alternate timeline with Horsefont that made them like more interested.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And there's one thing that I've heard not recently. I've done a show in the past where I was wondering about the Japanese community with Final Fantasy 14 and everything else. And one of the responses was that a lot of players in Japan think players who play multiplayer games are players who play maybe even Final Fantasy 14 are more quote-unquote toxic. However that translates well, sorry. Is that still kind of the case in some way in just the overall gaming community in Japan? Or maybe I misunderstood that.
So this was from like an interview that you read?
The interview that I did.
That you did? Okay.
Yeah, years and years ago. I can't
Okay.
remember how long, but it was a long time ago.
フロッシーさんは、数年前、ちょっとインタビューしたとき、聞いたのは、日本、中の、ゲームをやっている人たちは、その、マルチプレイヤーゲームをやっている、人たち、例えば、ファイナルファンタジー14とかは、日本語わかんないけど、トクシック、ちょっと悪い癖とかの人たち、たくさんいるから、ジャパン、日本の中のコミュニティは、その意見がまだありますか？
14はそんなにトキシックってイメージは
う
あ
ん。
んまりないような。結構他のジャンルのゲームだとトキシックな人が多いっていうのはあると思いますけれど。どうですか？
League of Legends ロールプレイヤーはやばいね。
そうです。でも14はそんなにトキシックってイメージは僕はあんまりないですけど、どうですか？
まあ、そんなには。
うん
比べるものがちょっとロールだとちょっと見送りしちゃうけど
トキシックすると連れ去られる韓国に。
あ、確かに。
そう。
わかりました。じゃあ、翻訳します。Okay, so they're saying that inside of Final Fantasy 14, that like there's not really that image of toxicity in Japan. It's more like other multiplayer games, like League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's more those games that are known to be toxic, rather than Final Fantasy 14.
Okay. That helps clear it up a little bit for me. So thank you for that perspective.
ありがとうございます。
So I guess I do also want to talk again about the world race scene overall and the players who are participating in it. Do other teams that are racing in Japan communicate with you at all, or are you completely separate and only they kind of keep to themselves?
その、レイドレースのチームと、ルクレイジアは、やりとりありますか？
あ
あんまりない。
どうなん？
まあ、チーム単位でどうのっていうのはないけど、まあただ、そのハードコアなプレイヤーたちとの関わりは、まあここで多分みんな持ってたりしてて、で例えば、まあルクレツィアの練習、普段の練習とかに人が足りない時とかに、知り合い、ハードコアな知り合いを呼んで、練習に参加してもらったりとかすることはある。けど、なんか、チーム単位でのコミュニケーションみたいなのはあんまりないかな。
ありがとうございます。Okay, so for there's not really much communication between other like hardcore world race teams, but WIS does like kind of have a good view into like a good kind of like network of other hardcore players that he can reach out to and ask to kind of like sub in if somebody can't make it or if they just need like extra people for practice and stuff like that. So there is a bit of a network of that like hardcore player base. It's just like not between the other world race teams.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think. There's a handful of other teams out there. What are, if they don't mind, do they know some of the names of the other teams that are out there kind of racing just off the top of their head? In Japan, sorry.
Yeah. 日本では、別のチーム、レイドレースチームの名前知ってますか？
グラインドっていうチームが前回天国編天国編で確かワールドサードだったかな。で、実際ちゃんと知ってるのはそれぐらいしかなくて、割と日本のコミュニティとかチームは割と表立ってこうルクレみたいな感じに堂々となんかレースしますよみたいなことを言うチームがあんまりなくて、なのでまあそういうコミュニケーションもなかったりとか、まあ知る術がなかったりする。ね、ただモグトークのそのメンバー登録とかをするときとかに、あ、こういうチームがあるんだっていうことを知ることはあるかな。
Yeah, so Wiz is saying that they don't really know that many teams' names. I think they just said like Grind, Tengoken, World Server. Like there's just a couple of names, but like there's not really any moment where people are like kind of announcing themselves really to say like we're gonna be doing the world race. And it's not really like how you have the sign up forms to say I want to be part of the world race at this point. But yeah, like that's kind of where it's at. Yeah.
In the past, my experience has been a lot of really competitive teams don't announce their racing until they win. Does that seem to be the case for a lot of the teams?
フロスティさんの経験として、過去、チームが、いるのアナウンスは、勝った後でですから、日本では、そのこともありますか？
あれだよね、だから、まあ、絶馬派しかり、アンネームドしかりって感じのことだよね、多分。そのクリアした後にチーム名は公表してなかったけどクリアした後に、まあ、実はこういうチームでやってましたよっていうことをそうだよね。まあ日本で煉獄編のチームが多分最近だとアンネームドが多分それに当たるのかな、今の質問だと。
Yeah, so it's kind of the same way in Japan. That like it's happened before where like with unnamed, for instance, where they won't announce until afterwards. So yeah, it's kind of like also a normal thing is to not say anything until after winning.
Okay, fair. It's not fun for me, but I understand.
フロスティにはあんまり楽しくないけど、理解できます。
なんかもうそもそもなんかあれだよね。なんか長期的にチームを運営するっていう考えが多分日本にはあんまりなくて、まあ一回一回の活動で終わっちゃったりするからチーム名がその定まってなかったりとか決まってなかったりっていうことが多いのかなっていう印象。
シャイやねんな。
まあそれはそう。
わかった。So, in the case of Japan, like a lot of the reason for that is because like these teams are not necessarily thinking to like do world racing long term. So they're like kind of just giving it a try once and seeing if they can do it, and then kind of like disbanding afterwards a lot of the time, or like reforming. And also like they're a little bit shy as well. So that makes it so that they don't necessarily want to like come forward and announce it.
So much trouble for me.
めんどくさいと言われました。
Okay. Well, now learning a little bit about that, I kind of want to get a little bit more into Lucrezia too, and just kind of how they think and how they process doing the world race, how they approach content, and things of that nature. And so we can use the recent world race with Criterion as an example. But I mean, if they want to go back and talk about how they approach Savage or anything else to answer some of these, they can as well. And the first one being, of course, just like when they go into content, what is their process? Like how do they progress through it? Like what are they thinking when they go in there? Is it all just pure learning, no DPS, or what is their approach?
じゃあ、これから、ルクレイジーチームに関して、まあ、その、霊式、進行に関して、聞きたいんですが、まあ、何でもいいんだけど、もちろん、あろあろ、島、霊式についても、聞きたいんですが、まあ、始めるから、どのように、コンテンツは進行してますか？例えば、まあ、DPS しなくて、その、ギミックだけ、集中するとか。
まあ、
最初は、まあ、とりあえず殴らないで、ギミックに集中して。
Yeah, so first they do, すいません。first they do focus on the mechanic and they don't do any damage. どうぞ。
で、まあ、HP 半分過ぎたあたりから、まあ、そのまま流れで倒したりとかもあるから、そこら辺から殴り始めて、攻略というか、まあ、討伐見つつ、後半のギミックを攻略しつつみたいな流れです。
わかりました。Yeah, so normally first they're really not doing any damage, but then like once they get to kind of like the halfway point of the fight, like that's when they'll actually start incorporating back doing damage as they're kind of continuing to process through those mechanics.
Okay. Do you, when going through the most recent one, you know, and trying to learn and decipher these mechanics and figure it out, I guess in Criterion, this would be more particular in Criterion, were there any that were like extremely easy to solve, any that were hard to solve, that are worth commenting on?
そうですね。一番最新の、まあ、進行に関して、まあ、そのギミックの中で、まあ、簡単な、まあ、解決しやすい、まあ、ギミックはありましたか？
簡単だ。
簡単。
まあ、わかりやすいとか、まあ、すぐにわかる、ギミックありましたか？
リボスは全体的に結構見たまんまというか、直感的にわかりやすかったような気がします。
うん。
So the second boss for Alo Alo Island was like for them, like just seeing the mechanics, it was easy for them to understand it. For this part, like it was pretty obvious right away for them.
The Lala.
ララ。
Nada.
他、簡単あんまりつまらんかったよね。
そう
逆
全
に、
体的に。
逆に最初の1ボスがあれだよね。多分一番最初のクリスタルのギミックがまあ一人の人がパッて思いついたからスムーズに進んだけど、
うん
他のチームを見てるとあそこが一番詰まってたのかなっていう印象があったから、なんかあそこがすんなりできたのは良かったよね、チームとしては。
うん。
いや間違いない。
うん。
So for the first boss mechanic, the crystals, they had somebody like one of their support members who just like got it right away, like how it worked, and then they were also able to like look at other teams and see like how they were kind of solving it, and so for that one, they were able to really smoothly make it through that mechanic.
Mm-hmm. That's actually. Sorry if they're still going. I'll wait a second.
もうちょっと言いたいことありますか？
あー
まあ、
あと
2ボ
ダーツ
スは、
ビール
あれ、2ボス、
多分
ダーツビルドそ
ダー
んな、
サンドリル、うん、
そんなかそんなか。
方針を決めるまでは長かったね。確かに。
まあ、そうです。まあ、
やること
決まってから
自体は
はすんなり。
うん。決まってからはすんなりって感じだったけど。
もう一回すいません。
ね、ダーツウィールっていうサードボス、
うんうんうんうんうん。
フェアリーのあいつのギミックが、こうしようってかっちりギミックの回を決めるまでが長かったかな。
So for the third boss, for the dartboard of dancing explosives, I'm glad I looked up the name of this in English
Oh, yeah.
beforehand. For that mechanic, it was a bit tough to figure it out at first, but then like, well, they kind of figured it out, but then like actually deciding like how to deal with it took a bit of time. So that was like slightly more challenging.
Okay. They did mention streaming and being able to kind of reference other streams and everything as well. So that actually brings up a pretty good question about just streaming the world race. Because a lot of players who don't want to stream, that's what they're worried about, is that they get ahead and someone sees their strat and everything else, and they feel like they lose progress. How do they feel about that part of the race and players who might be afraid of showing their progress and everything, and they're trying to stay ahead by being invisible?
そうですね。レースの配信に関して、このトピックに戻りたいんですけど、レースのチーム、配信したくないレースチームの理由は、もちろん、次のギミック、先に、ギミックに進んで、別のチームが、そのギミックと、攻略とか、見て、そのせいで、ちょっと、進行がもうちょっとなくなって、レースのために、ちょっと同じところに、もうちょっと早くに進むとか、その原因があるんですが、ルクレイジアとしてどうですか？それは、気にしていないとか？
不利になることは間違いないけど、そうね。
あんまりもう気にしてない感じはあるよね。アドバンテージ取られようが先に進んでた方が詰まる方が悪いみたいな。
まあ、そこら辺はもうプレイヤースキルで解決しようねっていう話をしてますね。その配信することによってのリスク
おこ
デメリットを、プレイ
起こり
ヤースキルで
得るリスクはね。
解決する。
わかりました. Okay. So for them, like they feel that they're not really worried about it actually. And for them, they're actually more concerned with the winner of the world race to be based on player skill over like kind of hiding mechanics and like hiding like kind of the next part of the fight and not showing that. Like they feel that even if everyone streamed, like what will decide the winner in the end is that player skill. And so for them, they don't feel like it's such an advantage to hide it, and they actually don't think that that's a great thing. They think it's better for everything to be out in the open.
Oh, okay. So I guess just to confirm that opinion too, they feel like, if you're in the lead, you don't really have as much to worry about because you have more practice on those different mechanics and being able to do that and just using your skill and staying consistent, you'll still win even if people are taking your strategy.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, great. And now, so we're on number 12. It was
12番
17.
に進もう。
はいはいはいはい
So within Lucrezia, do the player? I guess I'm gonna rephrase this question a little bit, Chiela. Chiela, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
When the players are doing the content, whether it's Savage, Criterion, whichever, are the players who are actually like in the field, executing the fight? Do they sometimes work with the support members to try to figure out the stuff, or do they stay mostly silent and the support team is just like the commander telling them, all the different things to do? How does that dynamic usually work when they're raiding?
Okay. レースするとき、サポートプレイヤーと、その、チーム内プレイヤーがいて、その、役割としてどうですか？その、攻略しているプレイヤーたちは、サポートメンバーと一緒に、ギミックの、進行とか、ギミックの解決とか、一緒に、ちょっとチェックするとか、その、立場があるのでしょうか？それとも、メインチームは、静かに、進んで、その、サポートメンバーは全体的に、そのギミックを解決する。そんな感じ？どっちの方がやりますか？
天国編の時は、もうサポートメンバーが全部考えて、もうサポートメンバーの言う通りにプレイヤーが動くみたいなスタイルで進行したんですけど、なんかあまりそれが良くないっていうことに気づいて、プレイヤー中心に考えていくように変えて、アロアロ島ではなんかそれが成功したかなって思ってますね。だから一応サポートメンバーももちろん一緒に考えるし、ギミックについてはいろいろ考えたりサポートをいろいろすることはあるけど、プレイヤー主体って考えることの方が多く合ってるよね、多分。
わかりました。Okay, so especially for like Pandemonium, they definitely had like a mix of talking to each other and like trying to figure things out. Really, it like just depends on the players and the team and how they want to come and bring themselves to the raid at that time. So it kind of like depends on personalities and like what people notice. But of course, the support members are there to really see the mechanics and to try and figure them out. So they're definitely like taking kind of that leadership role in actually like figuring out those mechanics. But they do a lot together and they're kind of like collaborating with each other.
Do they ever have arguments over what's right, what's wrong?
すごい、議論する時ありますか？例えば、まあ、文
あ
句とかありますか？
いや、喧嘩はしないんじゃない？議論はしたりするか。
す
まあ、
るけど、
進め方について
まあ、なん
は、
か、
うん。
まあ長引きそうなら、
そうね。
長くなりそうだったら、まあ、とりあえずこっちやってみようみたいな、早めに話は切り上げて、試せることを先にやることが多いですね。
面白い。
うん。
Okay, so for them, they have never really fought with each other about things. Like they don't really fight. Of course, they'll have like discussions about how
Mhm.
like mechanics might work. But what I thought was quite interesting about what they just said is that if the conversation gets to be too long, like if they feel like it's going on for too long and they're not really like coming to any conclusion, then they'll say, this conversation's going on too long. Let's stop here and just for now try this thing and then come back to it later. So they'll kind of
Okay.
have a hard cutoff for the amount of discussion that they have,
Okay.
which I think is healthy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Sorry, I just thought of a question.
No, it's okay.
Speaking of healthy, do they have a diet or what they eat when they're racing?
じゃあ、次の質問は、まあ、健康のために、レースの時何か、ダイエットとか、食べた方がいい、ものとかありますか？
結構、真面目に改善したよね、食生活。
人によるのかな。
うん。
直前はね。
まあちょっと前、レースするちょっと前にはもうとりあえずカフェインは取らない。エナジードリンク飲まないとか、コーヒー飲まないとか。
Interesting. 面白い。So, before the race, I mean, it depends on the person, but they do actually try and improve what they're eating. Like they're actually thinking about what they're eating before the race. And Ark was saying that he stops drinking caffeine actually before the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah, because it would be the opposite for me.
Yeah, no, because the race. What time does this race start in Japan again? It's
like 7 p.m.
7
JST.
p.m. and so you
Yeah.
have to adjust your sleep schedule, and so no
Yeah.
caffeine makes that very difficult, I would think. Yeah.
そのレースの前に、カフェイン飲まないことは大変になりそうじゃないか？
多分、レース前の期間、1週間前くらいからカフェインを抜き始めて、レース中はカフェインは取る。
わかりました。
ってことですね。
Okay, so basically like a week before the race starts, they stop drinking caffeine, and then once the race starts, they drink it. So I think it's essentially to like make it so that the caffeine has a greater effect during the race.
Yeah. Okay.
ありがとうございます。
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I gotta ask what their thoughts on bananas are, I guess. It's
Wait, why bananas?
It's TPS, no thoughts per second. Some of their members have mentioned bananas as being one of the main foods for them.
TPS のグループしてますか？みんな。
はい。してます。
レースの時、バナナよく食べてますから、してますか？
うちでも一房買ってきたやついますね。
まあ日本人も割とね、
食べる
バナナ、食べる。
バナナとかチョコレートとか。
別にまあこういうレースに限らず多分スポーツとかでもまあよく多分食べると思うし、まあそれに習ってっていくところはあるから。
面白い。
あとは、日本は多分。
どうぞ。
日本は多分ラムネとかも多いかな。
グミとか。
So,
納豆。
あ、納豆も納豆も
納豆食べます。
ほんまに
納豆はどう
聞いたことない。
違くない
大豆大事だよ、大豆。
そうなんだ。
カリウム、カリウム。
ありね。
Okay, so for Japan, well, first I asked them if they knew about TPS and bananas, and they said yes, that they actually did know about that. And they said that, yeah, in Japan, actually not just for Final Fantasy World Racing, but also for like sports and stuff. They'll eat a lot of bananas and chocolate, and also namune. Just for, I'm not sure how many people know what namune is,
I
but
don't.
it's like it's a Japanese like soft drink essentially. It's kind of like, it's sort of like Sprite adjacent. It has like a little bit. It's a little bit less lemon limey, but like more kind of berry-ish flavored. There's not exactly like an equivalent, but it's kind of sweet and can provide you with like that sugar. So
Not
yeah,
like
so that
Gatorade,
kind of
right?
thing. No, because it's fizzy. It's a
Okay.
fizzy drink.
Okay.
So it's like Sprite adjacent, but the flavors are different. There's a bunch of different flavors. Got a super unique looking like bottle cap where that has this ball at the top, and you push it in to open the
I
drink.
know what.
Oh, you've seen it before. Okay.
Yeah, I know those.
Yeah.
I know those. Okay. All right. Sorry for the silly question. But I just had to ask. I guess I should ask a little bit more serious question now. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about just a handful of things in general with the race. Something Square Enix said once, Yoshida said once. He said that once they might actually, they've been requested, at least from the community, to be more involved in the world race from an official standpoint. There hasn't been a lot said by them that I know of, but I'd like to know what their thoughts are about Square Enix getting more involved, and what in theory they think they may do, and what in theory they would want them to do. You know, the difference between the two. Yeah.
So, 以前スクエアエニックスは、公式の立場としてレーレースに関与する可能性があると述べました。それについてどう思いますか？また、理論的には、公式の立場からどのように、サポートできると思いますか？そのサポートも、欲しいサポートも、何を望みますか？
公式がやってくれるなら、レイドレースをやってくれるなら、間違いがないからありがたいよね。ただ、まだ公式はノウハウとかがないやろから、もしかしたら、モグトークがオフィシャルになるかも。ファンフェスにアーティストとかミュージシャンとかステージ上がってたからね。ないことはないよね。
ありがとうございます。So, yeah, Noromio was saying that he feels like he'd be really grateful if they could participate somehow, but like wondering if they would actually know how to do that. Like, would it be possible for them to actually like, understand, the ins and outs of that? And so he was saying it'd be great if they could like pair up with you, since you have so much experience with it. And also like it would be really interesting if somewhat similarly to FanFest that there could be some kind of stage or something like that that could happen. That would be really amazing.
I 100% would love to be involved with them officially and help them with that, because I have lots of ideas on how they could do it. But yeah, and I think they have PvP events right now at FanFest. And it would be nice if they did PvE as well, because I feel like we should be getting to that point where there's players that are known that are good that could come up and do like a gauntlet speed run race or something similar like that on stage, and there's definitely place for it. And I agree. So basically, yeah, I agree with a lot of that, and hope they do improve on that.
Okay, let me translate that. Frosty もまあすごく賛成してて、今もファンフェスではPVP のイベントがあるんですから、その同じようなPVE イベントもあれば、例えばすごい有名なプレイヤーたちはちょっとスピードレースとかやったら、それもすごい、楽しいし、またその PVE の、コンテンツも、ハイライトできるようになるかなと思っています。
いや、でも難しいな。
そうですね。
新しく実装するものをレースするから楽しいんであって、多分ファンフェスでやるってなったら、すでにあるものをやることになるから、あまり盛り上がるかなって感じですね。
そうですね。
うん。
The sentiment is like it would be kind of difficult just because of the fact that one of the really big draws and parts of the excitement for the world race is the fact that it's new content, and so it's stuff that we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
But in something like FanFest, it would have to be existing content because, I mean, they're not just going to make something for FanFest, right? And so, like, they're wondering, he's wondering, like, is it something that would actually be like that exciting for people to watch or not? He's not really sure.
I can give him an example.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
I can't remember the year. It was bad because I was part of it. I did commentation for it when they did it at Paris Games Week a long time ago. Square Enix actually got involved, and they invited European teams to do, I believe, Ultimate and I think a mix of Savage fights back to back, minimum eye level, and they paired them up, one team here, one team on the other side, and they just kind of raced to see who could actually finish a set of fights first. And then whoever won that would go on to the next, and then they would do it again against two other teams until there was one winner at the very end.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that happened.
Yep.
Let me... 例として、昔、フロッシーさん参加しましたけど、ヨーロッパでは、ペリーゲームウィーク、すごい昔の時、
パリゲームウィーク。
はい。その時、スクエア・エニックスは、参加して、ヨーロッパチームに、誘って、年式と絶の、戦い、レースキから絶まで、同じタイミングでやって、2つのチームは、同じタイミングでやって、一番早いチームは次のステップに進んで、最後に、一つのチームが、勝ったけど、そんな立場がありました。昔だけど、どうですか？そんな、イベントがあれば。
面白そ
う。
I have one small correction to it.
Okay.
So Square Enix worked with Solari, which is a French esports team, to put on the event during Paris Games Week. So it wasn't, I don't think, officially Square Enix, but they worked together with them. It was their event that Final Fantasy XIV helped support and make happen. So they were like more supporting it and giving resources for it.
OK。じゃあ、訂正として、スクエア・エニックスのアフィシャルイベントじゃなくて、その、was it Solari?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? Solari という、 ことがあって、その、人たちは、スクエアエニックスはサポートして、そのイベントを作りましたけど、まあ、オフィシャル、スクエアエニックスイベントじゃない。じゃなかった。
Yeah. Just for reference, I added a link into the chat for them. They would have to translate everything, but it's there so they can see it historically that it has existed, I guess, in some way, and hopefully maybe they could do it again.
ああ、これね。はいはいはいはい。
they're taking a look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
参考、として、フロスティさんは、リンクを送って、でもまあ、まあ、昔、そのようなイベントがあったから、まあ、将来的に、可能性がありそうかなと思っています。
このイベントの反応を知りたいですね。向こうがどんな反応やったんか。盛り上がったんですかね。
そうですね。じゃあ聞きます。So, what was the like reaction to that event? Like, were people excited by it? Do you remember?
It's never happened again. But the general reaction, it was really late for North America and pretty early for European.
そうか。
But
Oh.
I think mostly people who knew about it enjoyed it. But if it was at FanFest, it would likely be better received. It was just kind of
I
like a
see.
side thing here. Yeah.
その反応について、まあ、タイミングはちょっと悪かった。アメリカでは、まあ、タイミングが悪くて、また、日本でも、まあ、ちょっと大変でしたから、そのせいで、あんまり盛り上がってないけど、例えば、ファンフェスのステージだったら、まあ、フロスティさんの考えはもうちょっと、盛り上がるかなと思っています。
And of course, I'm going to make this longer. But I think, in my opinion, that they don't have a lot of ways for PvE to be competitive built into Final Fantasy XIV right now. There's no like built-in competitiveness in that scene. It's all community-based. And so for them to kind of get more players interested and excited for it, they would have to build in more systems in the game for that competitive stuff. Like Deep Dungeon has a leaderboard, but Savage doesn't have a leaderboard, Ultimate doesn't have a leaderboard, things like that don't have a leaderboard. But maybe if, Square Enix from an official standpoint did a top first teams to clear leaderboard or something like that, maybe they would change their opinion. I agree with your dog too.
Sorry, my ワンちゃんが盛り上がっている。そうですね。ちょっと、まあ、今まで、14の中では、PVE、まあ、レードコンテンツの、勝負とかはあんまりない。今、コミュニティは、全体的に、その、まあ、勝負のことを、作って、でもまあ、プレイヤーたちはもうちょっと盛り上がるために、ゲーム内、システムを作った方がいいかなと思ってて、例えば、ディープダンジョンはリーダーボードがあって、でもまあ、もちろん、レイスキーと絶用は全然ないんですから、そのことがあれば、もうちょっと盛り上がるかなと思ってます。
公式のロードストーンのサイトでリーダーボード出してくれればってことね。
そう。はい。どうですか？そのリーダーボードがあれば。
欲しい。
まあ、あったらいいと思う。
It also makes my job much easier. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so they would love the idea of a leaderboard, kind of similarly to what Deep Dungeon has on the Lodestone, and think that it would be great. Yeah.
I'm gonna not go into that more because I'm gonna make this a very long show. But I have lots of thoughts.
Time for a 10-hour MogTalk.
Yeah. But I'd love to talk on it more in the future. Just let them know that.
いつか、まあもちろん、この話題に関してもっと話したいんですけど、もちろん、それやったら、MogTalkは10時間になるから、まあ今のエピソードのために、そこまで話したいと思ってて、でもまあ、まあ今度、次のMogTalkで、この話題について話したいかなと思っていますから、いつか、もう一回、全員聞いたら嬉しいですと言われました。
なるほどね。ワールドファースト取ってね。
またワールドカップあれば。
オッケーオッケー。
I assume okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when they get world first again.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Next Savage.
Yeah, next Savage. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask about Lucrezia in general, but before I ask those questions, just in general of the future and everything else, I do want to ask them more directly since we have this open window. Thank you, Chiela, for doing such a great job of translating
No
this. But do they have any questions from their team? We have some people from the NA teams and the EU teams that could be possibly watching right now. I know I already saw some people from the NA teams in chat. Do they have any questions for them or, anyone over at EU NA about the world race or just anything in general?
And so just to double check, do you want to ask more questions still about Lucrecia after this?
Yep,
Okay,
after
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I want to give them the floor for a second and let them...
Okay, cool. Yeah, just double checking. Yeah.
Yeah.
この質問の後で、まだ、ルクレジアに関して、質問が残っていますが、今のところでは、ルクレジアたちは、海外のプレイヤー向けに質問ありますか？今のところ、MogTalkの、土チャットで、いろんな、まあ、アメリカのレースチームメンバーがいるから、多分答えます。
ああ、なるほどね。質問したいことが、なんかありますかみんな。
海外の人たちって、キーボードマウスのプレイヤーとコントローラーのプレイヤーだったら、まあ、どっちが多いんですかね、やっぱ。やっぱキーマウなのかな。
じゃあ。So the first question is for overseas players, is it more common for players to play with keyboard and mouse or controller?
Before I get the answer from some of the chat, maybe they'll answer. But it is keyboard mouse and controller players. There are a lot of ones in the world race that play with controller, but I think you usually see keyboard mouse more commonly. And the people who play keyboard mouse, when they see someone playing with a controller, they're like, "Oh my god, that is so impressive!" And it's such like a big deal. But there are some really good players out there who play on controller.
So 普段は、まあ多分は分かってるけど、普段は、キーボードマウス使ってて、まあ、レースの中で。だけど、もちろん、すごい上手な、コントローラープレイヤーもいて、でも、キーボードマウスプレイヤーが、そのコントローラーのプレイヤーを見ると、すごい上手と本当にびっくりしてて、まあ、すごい喜んでいる、その、すごい上手な、コントローラープレイヤーを見ると。
ああ、なるほどね。ホットバー、カチャカチャカチャっていう。
そう。So he was just saying, like, watching the controller players kind of swapping between all of the hotbars amazes like keyboard mouse players, which it does for me too, as a keyboard and mouse player.
The more impressive thing is that there are some world race players who click on their abilities.
Oh my god. 一番、すごい、ことは、まあ、キーボードマウスだけじゃなくて、そのホットバーのスキル、一つずつクリックする人たちは一番すごい。
まあ確かに。
日本語でもクリッカー。
クリッカー。
英語でも。 They also say clickers in Japanese to
Oh, yeah.
talk about like keyboard clickers. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice. I heard
まあ
baka.
彼らは FPS をやった方がいいと思うね。
So
Real quick, Romeo speaks really good English. I feel
me?
like, yeah, I think so. Because I ask a question and then I hear you respond before it's even translated.
I think I can't.
Okay.
リスニングはちょっと難しいかも。スピーキングはちょっとできる。
そうですね。わかる。So Romeo said that listening is really hard for him, but speaking he can do like a little bit.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah.
Good. I just wanted to compliment because I noticed it. Okay. Any other questions they may have?
他の質問ありますか？
そうですね。だから海外のチームだと、なんだろう、一つのチームあたりサポートメンバーっていうのがどれぐらいいるのが普通というか、一般的なのかっていうのは気になります。
Okay, so the next question is for the overseas teams in terms of like support members. So basically what we would call like 9th and 10th mans. How many are there on like normally for those types of world race teams?
It depends on the team.
チームによる。
Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 25.
わお。
一人、二人、25人。それ、まあ、全部は可能性がある。
アレキの頃のエリシウム。マジで人多かったよね。
あの時は
めちゃくちゃ人おったような気する。
プレイヤーとかもなんか70人ぐらいいるみたいな話は聞いたことあ
る。Yeah, so they're just kind of like asking about the amount. I think it was like Elysium or something like that has a whole bunch of people.
Elysium doesn't exist anymore.
And Elysium は存在していない今。
Yeah. Unfortunately, rest in peace, Elysium.
なくなりました。まあ、活動しないようになりました。
But yeah, no, I think it depends. Elysium, that goes into one of the questions I was going to ask you guys, and we'll come back to maybe questions for them to ask too, but this just goes really well into it, is that like there were groups like Elysium, Radiance, Angered back in the day was another one, right? And they've kind of like started to go away and not be as popular anymore. And there could be various reasons for that. But you guys are maybe the one of the only bigger organizations for the world race at the moment. Do you hope or think that's going to expand, maybe on the JP side, or do you have hopes that maybe it'll expand on the EU and NA, that we start to see bigger groups start to form?
今のところは、Elysium とか Radiance、Anger とか、その、レイドグループはあんまりなくなりましたから、まあ、いろんな理由があるんですけど、今のところはそんなに人気じゃない。だから、ルクレイジアは、まあ、レースのための、まあ、一番大きなグループになって、でも、まあ、ルクレイジアのメンバーとして、まあ、希望として、他の、大きな、まあ、レードのためのグループを、まあ、作ること欲しいとか。
まあ、コミュニティの盛り上がりは、やっぱりそう大きなグループがあった方が盛り上がるよね。
欲しい。やっぱり。
あと、やっぱり過去を思い出すと、ね、 でかいのがあった方がいいな。
まあ、昔はやっぱりその海外チームとのなんか、やりとりとかもあって、お互いなんかリスペクトし合ってレースしてた記憶があるから、やっぱりなんかそういうチームがたくさん増えることは、まあ、お互いにとっていいことなんじゃないかな。なんか、リスペクトも大事だし、対抗意識も持つようになるから、自分たちの実力も上がると思うから、そういうチームは増えてほしい。
そう一番最初にルクレできたのもブルーガーターに対抗するためやもんな。
そうだね。もう完全にもう BG にを意識して作ったチームだから、ルクレは。
ありがとうございます。Okay, so yeah, the general consensus is that I think for the overall like that feeling of excitement and like kind of watching the race, it's really great to have a bunch of bigger teams. And also just for Lucrezia in general, they felt like in the past they've been able to have conversations with overseas teams. And they felt like that was really great for them, and they felt a lot of like respect for those teams. And so being able to have more of those teams kind of come in and be part of the race is great. Also just for a sense of like rivalry and being able to kind of like have that competitive spirit, having more teams participate is great. So they're all for that. And they mentioned like a team in the past, I think it's called BG, that they were kind of like,
Blue Garter?
yeah, exactly. That they were also like communicating with a lot and kind of competing with. So definitely love that. You're back on memory lane.
So old.
BG はすごい昔の話ですからすごい懐かしい気持ちになった。
BG, they really only T5 and then
Yes.
that was mostly it. And after T5 we didn't really, I mean, they kind of weren't doing as many races as much. And and T9 was the other one. I was corrected in Twitch chat, but that's the very beginning of the races. And so now I feel very old. I hope Wise feels old too.
BG の、まあ、話、それはまあ、レースの最初の、ところですから、フロスティさんはお年寄りの感じになりましたから、まあ、ウィスさんも同じような感じになったそうかなと思ってます。
Yes.
Okay. Well, if we're looking at, just out of curiosity, do any of them follow the World of Warcraft race?
World of Warcraft のレース、まあ、もう見てますか？
I watching Echo Esports.
Echo, yeah, I love them.
エコの、ファイナルファンタジー活動も見てますか？
ファイナル、エコか、
エコ、そう。そう、まあ、絶と、レシキも、まあ、ギミックのガイドを見ずに、進行しています。そう、ブラインドです。そう、はい。見てますか？
見てましたね。面白かった。多分みんな見てると思う。
そう、私も。I just asked them if since they mentioned Echo, if they also were watching, because they said they're watching the World of Warcraft race, they're also watching their blind prog through all of the like Savage and Ultimate that they've been doing as well.
Yeah. Echo took a while for the Omega Protocol.
Yes.
But not as long as me.
That's okay. 一番最初の絶はちょっと時間かかりましたと、エコのために。でも、フロスティの方が時間かかりますと言われました。
今やってはるもんね。
でも、フロスティさんはすぐに終わります。まあ、最後の部分に いますから、
ね。
すぐに
はいはいはい。
倒せると思います。I just said that you're at the last part, Frosty, and you're gonna
Zero
finish
point-
very soon.
0.2, 0.3, 0.3, yes.
悔しい。
悔しいね。
Yoshida, please. Okay. I'd like to ask again if they have any more questions. I interrupted a little bit on that one, and I just want to go back and see if, again, while we have this kind of window open, if they had any other questions for the.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. 途中で別のトピックに関して話したけど、まあもう一回聞きたいのは何か海外のレイドコミュニティ向けの質問がありますか？
まあこれもチームによると思うんですけど、まあ、日本だと割とレイドチームって横のつながりで友達同士で組んだりするんですけど、海外だったらそのロードストーンとかで応募したりしてチームを作るのか、それとも日本と同じように知り合いを集めて作ったりするのかっていうのが気になります。
どうやってレイドチームを作ること？面白い。So, Wiz is asking, like, how exactly do the world race teams get formed overseas? In Japan, we use the lodestone. So he's wondering, like, is it through acquaintances, or like how do people find each other for world races?
Okay, I'll try to answer this, and I might get corrected by chat here.
Yeah, chat can also
Yeah.
jump in.
But from my understanding, most of it's just they've played together for a while, they know each other, and it's people they're acquainted with. Not very many people come in that are they don't know each other, unless if it's a new group. If it's a new group, you know, they do very hard tryouts. They go and they look and they analyze everything they can about their experience. They try to run them through content to see if they can find any kind of issues with the players. And it's a pretty rigorous, I think, for a lot of newer groups. But the older groups, they stick to the people they know, and they have already they've been playing so long they have a network of players that they can kind of pull from. Let's see, I'm reading chat right now too. Let's see.
そうですね。長く、活動しているチーム、その、レイドレースチーム、は、いつも、まあ、すごい、まあ、分かっている人と、誘うだけ。本当に、まあ、初心者はあんまり誘ってなくて、本当に、まあ、知り合いが必要し、でも、まあ、新しいグループだったら、そのグループは、まあ、ちょっと、トライアルをやって、例えば、まあ、
トライアウト。
そう、最初に、いろんなコンテンツをやって、まあ、その、まあ、プレイヤー内の、まあ、強い点と弱い点を考えて、誘うかどうかを決める。まあ、私は、まあ、レイドリーダーとして同じ、まあ、活動をやっててけど、そうですね。だから、まあ、一番強いチーム、そのレースチームは、あんまり初心者がいない。その結果は。
なるほど。
実績がある人たち。
やっぱり新規参入って難しいねんな。
そう。でもまあ、ロードストーンあんまり使わなくて、ディスコードと、まあ、レディットも
Twitter
よく使ってます。そう、ツイッターも使うと。たくさん、ディスコードサーバーが、まあ、そのレイド、メンバーを、探すサーバーがあります。そう
いいな。
I was just also explaining that there's lots of Discord servers where people
Yeah.
can find, members. Yep.
Yeah. There's a handful of different places to look. But hopefully we'll see bigger groups and people like training grounds and stuff, and we'll see this evolve into something much bigger. Again, I'm kind of afraid that the way that they're handling Savage now, where they release it a week after, makes it to where the crafters are not required as much. So maybe they don't feel like they need a big organization to help them get crafted gear really quick and everything else, and so it just that center place for having all the players doesn't exist as much because it's just so easily accessible overall. But I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see.
フロスティさんの、心配することについて、最近、例式の時、もちろん、1週間後、リリースされるタイミングがあるんですから、クラフターは、以前、より、今、あんまり必要ないから、だから、レース、ための、チームとか、フリーカンパニーとかはあんまり必要なくなるから、これからどうなるかなと、ちょっとわかんないですが、その考えがありますけど。
そうですね。確かに、すごく装備を用意しやすくなったですね。それ自体はすごいありがたい。お金がかからないので。
そうですね。So actually, they're quite happy that doesn't exist because it's quite it feels kind of like very like mania kind of thing, like very stressful to sort of like have to go through that, and also it costs a lot of money, like a lot of gil. So yeah, they're actually quite happy with the way that it's like kind of separated out, but yeah, obviously it does change the kind of atmosphere a little bit.
Yeah.
ただ、
逆に
どうぞ。
逆にこれまで参加するためのハードルがすごく高かったのが参加しやすくなったというふうにも考えると思うんで、そういう意味では逆に盛り上がる要因にもなるんじゃないかっていうふうには思います。
So on the other hand, at the same time, like in contrast to what you're saying, Frosty, Corton feels like because of the fact that there is this sort of like week break, there's a bit of time to like for the excitement to build, and also for like that preparation to happen, which actually decreases the hurdle to be able to like join in on the race and actually like participate in it in a meaningful way. So he feels like that's like actually quite a good thing that they've done this sort of delay.
It's good. I think most people have voiced that they think it's a good idea. For me, I'd like it if they didn't, because then you get all the surprises on that day, and it makes just watching it more exciting. When you see the normal mode, you kind of get a lot of the mechanics fed to you a little early, and so it loses a little bit of excitement. It makes the race a little bit shorter. So from my perspective, I don't like it as much, but from players' perspective, it's probably really good.
そう、フロスティさんの考えから言うと、同じタイミングで、ノーマルと、例式がリリースするときは、もちろん、その、新しいギミック、同時に、見えるようになるから、それは本当に盛り上がるんですけど、別々で、リリースすると、もうちょっと、その、ギミックを、攻略できるようになって、だから、例式が、リリースするとき、盛り上がらないかなと思ってます。その原因は。
ギミックが予想しやすい。
そう。
確かに。
考える時間が1週間あるから。
そう。
でも、同時実装はね、しんどいんすよね。
そうね。
しんどい。
So they understand what you're saying, but they think it's just like so tough when it's released at the same time. Like in having that time to think about the mechanics is kind of nice for them. So it's like that they definitely prefer it this way.
I don't care if it's tough for them. I just want it. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
冗談だけど、フロスティは、レースの気持ち気にしなくて、その盛り上がりたい気
まあ
持ち
確かに。
が欲しい。
確かに配信が。
見てる側からしたらまあ。
そう。
Oy.
Oh,
Okay. Do they want to see the world race maybe evolve? So the main reason I asked about the World of Warcraft thing earlier is because it's huge. It's so big. They have like 50,000, 100,000 people sometimes watching that race. Do they think that Final Fantasy XIV could possibly be there one day with that kind of viewership and that kind of amount of attention on the race?
そうですね。以前、ワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトレースに関して、聞いたんですけど、もちろん、そのレースはたくさん人たちが見てて、将来的に、ファイナルファンタジーは同じような形になる可能性があると思いますか？そんなに大きな、参加者とか。
向こうは、なんか、チームにスポンサーがついて、なんていうか、盛り上げようとする人らが多いというかな。公式もやし、企業もやし、だから、こっちもなんか、公式が手伝うようになれば、なくはないかなっていう感じ。
だから俺の考えとしては、こういうチーム、レイドチームを作ってワールドファーストを取るだけじゃなくて、そこを広めていくっていう部分とか、そういうWoWのレイドレースのように、盛り上げるための活動もルクレとしてしていかなきゃいけないなとは思ってて。
いいですね。
そうですね。一つのレイド攻略っていうだけじゃなくて、もっと幅広くいろいろやっていかなきゃいけないなって最近思ってます。そのワウの。
レイドコミュニティのね。
いいですね。
Okay.
Yeah, so what Doromio was saying is that definitely like a big part of the reason why WoW is so big is because each raid team actually has like sponsorships, right? Like corporate sponsorships that really pull that up a lot. And not only that, but they have like official sponsorship from Blizzard as well, which I think because there's like all of this kind of like external sponsorship, it allows for the like excitement and the participation for other parts of the community to really build and join in on that. And so that is really what like kind of feeds into it being like that. So if it's possible for Square Enix or like sponsorships to come into the Final Fantasy rating scene, then they could definitely see that as like a possibility for its future. Like it's not impossible for it to come like that. Yeah, me too. I pray for that too. And then Wiz was saying that like in terms of kind of reestablishing Lucrezia in the world race scene, it really wasn't just about getting world first. It wasn't just about like getting through the mechanics quickly or anything like that or figuring it out. Really for him, it's about creating a raid community and making it so that like is kind of like bringing the excitement and the joy and fun around raid and world racing to more people in the Final Fantasy community than were before. Because up until this point, like maybe there hasn't been as much. And so he thinks creating this kind of community can help bolster that.
Yeah. And I appreciate them working on that. It is definitely helpful to have organizations like Lucrezia around doing what they do.
フラッシーさんは、すごい感謝しています。本当に、ルクレイジアの活動とか、そのレイドコミュニティを作ることもすごいありがたいです。
よかった。
Like, that's good.
It's good. Good. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so only a couple more questions. I know we've been going for a very long time now. Only a couple more questions here, though. I guess real quick before I ask them about their future and everything, do they have one more question they would like to ask NA and EU? Real quick before we close that.
一つ二つ質問が残っていますが、その前に、最後に、もう一つ、海外のレイドコミュニティ向けの質問がありますか？
いいですか。あんまり
どうぞ
レイドレースとは関係ないかもしれないんですけど、日本ではトレースして攻略するときに動画を作ってくれる人がいるんですけど、海外ではどういうふうにそのギミックの処理法みたいなの共有されてるんですかね。
面白い質問。Okay, so this question is, it's not really about the world race, but Onigishi is wondering, how do people in NA and like overseas share and like learn mechanics together?
Do you mean like the party finder, or with random people playing together, or like static groups, or which type of player in particular? Because it's all a little different.
海外では、いろんな、やり方があるんですが、パーティーファインダーとか、グループ、レイドグループとか、どっちの方が気になりますか？
パーティーファインダー。
どうやって話だよね、パーティーファインダー。
Party finder. I guess. So what happens normally is we have these wonderful people who make early guides. They make guides very quick, or they make like a document where it's this. It's called Pastebin, but it's where everyone can kind of just go and look at the same strategy for every single one. But eventually, guide makers come out and people watch those guides. Hector is one, Renan is another, and there's a handful more out there. And what happens, I'm so sorry, because I'm trying to figure out how to say this the right way, is Party Finder has this internal battle, and whoever... And so someone will have a bad experience, they'll try another one, and just whoever one will eventually win. I play in both North America and European Party Finder groups, and eventually it just kind of settles. For example, on P12S, for some reason, the tank stands on the left side on P12S Phase 2 that take the tank busters. In EU and NA, they do it completely different. Tank on this side, left side here, right side here. I don't know why. They do it. And they just keep going until it catches on eventually. I'm going to let you translate that, and then I'll add more to it.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. 普段は、パーティーファインダーでは、その例式コンテンツが、リリースして、早めに、ガイドを作りたい人が、その最初の、ガイドをリリースして、Pastebin というウェブサイトが、あって、知ってます。OK。よかったです。そこで、全員、はい、そう。はい。そこで、全員は、同じ、ガイドが見えて、でも、その間に、動画ガイドもリリースして、ヘクターとリノンも、リリースして、そのタイミングでは、別の、作戦が、フィーチャーすれば、たまに、パーティーファインダーは、その新しい、やり方に変更して、だから、パーティーファインダーない、いろんな、ちょっと喧嘩があって、最後に、一つのやり方が勝つ。ファッシーさんは、アメリカとヨーロッパ で、パーティーファインダーをやってて、そこでも、まあ、別々の、やり方も、解決する。まあ、そんな流れがあるんですが、本当に、まあ、たくさんドラマとか、あるんですから、その最後の、やり方は本当に長い道に、
なるほど
進まなきゃいけない。そう。
Okay.
まあ、
でも
日本みたいに、
あ、
い
本当
ろんな、でも日本は割といろんな処理法があるけど、海外は、まあ、どっちかが勝つみたいな。
あ、
日本も
そっか。
日本も最近はあれじゃないかっちり決まるくない
まあ、大体、ゲーム8が
うん。
まあ、
主流になるか。
最近はね、最近は
最。終的に。
今まで
最近確かに
はかなりバラバラだったね、や
バラ
り方は。
うん
何々式、何々式、うん。
何々だけ何々
に
式。
うんいや、
面白い。
そうパーティーファインダーの募集文がね、呪文みたいに、めちゃめちゃ長く、わけのわからない、その、何々式、何々法みたいなのが続いて書かれてるんですよ。もうほんまに、もうなんか、パッと見たら、なんもわかんないですね。なんも理解できないです。
あ、海外と同じ。
同じ。
同じ。
やっぱり一緒なのか、結局。
うん面
一緒や
白い。
うん。
じゃあ、翻訳します。
うん。
So it's interesting. So apparently, like before, it was a little bit more common in Japan for there to be like existing multiple strategies inside of Party Finder, like less so that it would kind of converge into one, like on NA and EU. They would tend to like allow for multiple to exist simultaneously, but recently it started to change so that there's actually like this convergence into more like one. But the really interesting thing, which I said was the same for NA and I'm assuming EU as well, is that there will be all these like funny names for things. And so then you like look at the party finder listing and it's like something weird words or this or that to explain the strategy. And you just look at it, you cannot understand what it means, which is what I said is the same for NA as well.
Do they know that NAEU has a strat for limit cut on P9S called JP strat?
ああ。してますかパンダモニアムの、まあ、一番最初の、あ、はい、そうそうそう、JP ストラという、マーカーが。
豚バラ式ってやつが、
はいはいはい、
JP ストラって言われてたらしい。
へえ。
そう、
日本で流行ってるのそれではない。実は。
Yeah, so they weren't really aware of that. Well, some were and some weren't, but yeah, that they know that the strat also exists in JP as well, and then but under a different name.
Okay. Because from our understanding, that players in JP don't use that strat at all. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like that actually some players do use it.
理解として、まあ、パーティーファインダーの、人たちは、JP ストラットという、やり方はあんまり使ってない。日本では。
ああ、いや、
使ってます
P9 やろ ?P9 って、はいはいはい。天国一ね。はいはいはい。
はいはいはい。
豚バラはまあやってないんじゃない
やってないか。
知らないやつか。
流行ってない。
確かに流行ってないな。
流行ってない。流行ってない。
Yeah, they don't use it.
Okay. That is really funny.
ルクレ式じゃない。
無職マラソン。
無職マラソンね。
What are they saying? Sorry.
Oh yeah, they're just saying like that it's not really something that they use. Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay. So other than that, yeah, I think overall Party Finder just kind of evolves. It's really mixed when the content first comes out. but eventually it goes to whatever is most popular, and like after a few months, new players will always do the exact same strats and they settle on whatever they're doing. But it's EU will settle one way and NA will settle one way, and because they don't play with each other, they are a little different with what they settle with.
うん。そう、つまり、まあ、パーティーファイナルは、まあ、もちろん、最初に、バラバラでやってて、でも、最後に、まあ、一つのやり方を決めて、だから、まあ、初心者が、まあ、レールを始めるとき、その同じやり方を、まあ、それだけやります。また、ヨーロッパとアメリカのやり方は全然違う。もちろん。一緒に、まあ、プレイできないから、その、やり方の習い方とか全然できないから、バラバラでやってます。
But one additional thing to add is that while new players are doing the strat that everybody settled on, old players who cleared early refuse to learn new strategies. And so they will say, please only come if you do this strategy. And it takes a long time to fill, but they're very stubborn. And the people who cleared early will stick to the old strats and not be with the newer players.
うん。また、もう一つのは、経験者は、その新しいやり方をやりたくなくて、だから、そのパーティーファインダーグループを作るとき、そのメッセージで、まあ、こんなやり方だけ、やろうと書いてて、だから、まあ、すごい長く時間かかります。そのグループを作る
なる
こと。
ほどね。
そう。でもまあ、絶対に新しいやり方を、習いたくないから、待つの方が、良い、その、まあ、経験者のために。
日本も結構そういうところありますよ。なんか変国山荘とか、
うん。
変国山荘、変国の嵐の無敵式とか出てきたけれど、でも元々他のやり方でやってた人は、別に元のやり方でみたいな。
Yeah, so in Japan, it's kind of the same thing. Like, there's people that will just refuse to learn how to do something a different way. And so they'll kind of like stick to their guns and want to, keep doing it the same way.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so sorry. I just keep getting more questions in my head. EU and NA, EU especially, EU does this a lot, where they have M1, M2, R1, R2. I think maybe Japan is D1, D2, D3, D4. I don't. Yeah. But they will make a party and say, D1's taken. No one can take that when they come in. Do they have similar things like that in Japan?
はい
日本では、まあアメリカとヨーロッパでは、M1、M2 とか、まあ D1、D2 は同じような、ことがあるんですが、その、ポジション、まあ一人は、まあ私は D1 ですと、ちょっとクレームすることがありますか？
かなりありますよね。
命令同士で、取り合いになるっていうことですよね。
多分パーティー模試の段階で D1 締めみたいな。
そういうことか。
うん。ありますか？
ありますね。
めちゃくちゃあります。
あるある。
It happens a lot, yeah.
And I'll give them the NA perspective really quick just to finish that up. Is that what NA does is they put waymarks on the ground, and you know this. Chiela.
Yes, I do know
they put the waymarks on the ground, and everyone runs really quick to their spots and try to get there first. So the other person has to go to the other spot. Have they seen that, and do they have any thoughts on NA doing that?
そうですね。アメリカでは、日本語わかんないですが、ウェイマーク、そのグラウンドマーク。
フィールドマーカー。
はい、フィールドマーク。はい。そう。まあ、その、プレイヤーの、まあ、D1、D2 とか、その、 立場は、フィールドマーカーを、使って、アメリカで、みんなは、その立場に早く走って、立って、そこで、決めるけど、それについて、してますかその、文化
日本はしないな。
まあ、しないね。
話し合いで、話し合いで決めようよ。話し合いで決めようよ、それは。
So in Japan, they don't do that. They don't use waymarks at all. They just do it through speaking. Like they just talk to each other. Yeah, to do it.
Like civil people.
Like civil people.
Hey. Okay. So I guess we're kind of wrapping up, getting near the end. It's already been over 2.5 hours of the show in particular. We've been live for over 3 hours here. And I'm sure we need to go ahead and start wrapping up. So I'd like to ask them in general, Lucrezia, and we learned a lot about how they operate, their ambitions and everything else. But what's the vision for Lucrezia going into Dawn Trail? Is there anything that they hope to either grow or change or do anything differently? Where do they hope to be?
ルクレジアとして、今後の拡張の、望むことは何でしょうかこれから、どうなるでしょうか
それはゲームに対してなんですかね。
ゲームに対して。
ゲームに対して。はい。希望か。
What are our hopes?
なんだろ
なんやろね。長く続いてくれることが一番あれやけどね。
これは結構チーム内でも結構話してるけど、過去のコンテンツ、ゲンってなんて言ってんだろう、英語で。今で言うとゲンなんだっけ、今って。
ナイツ。
あれか、ナイツか。ゲンナイツってわかります？
ゲンナイツ。
レベル90シンクの
はい。
ナイツ・オブ・ラウンド。
全部過去のコンテンツをシンクで遊べるようにしてくれると、チームの練習とかすごいしやすいし、普通に一般って言い方もおかしいけど、普通のライトプレイヤーたちも楽しめると思うし、その5区だけじゃなくて霊式とか絶とかもそういう最新の90のスキルに合わせたコンテンツを用意してくれるとすごいありがたいかな。でか一個一個消すんじゃなくて残しといてほしい。毎回変わってるけどそれを残してほしい。
So for the kind of future, what they're really hoping for is, of course, to be continuing to do stuff for a long time. And also in the future, of course, like as the next expansion comes out, like they're still hoping to continue to do like level sync content, like DSR and stuff like that, and really like continue to hone their skills and continue moving forward together. And yeah, really just like being able to continue on like creating this community.
Okay. That's awesome. Content-wise, coming out of the game, is there anything they're looking forward to?
コンテンツとして、今後の拡張に関して、どのコンテンツが一番楽しみに、するとかありますか？
ですかな。
Ultimate, of course.
Ultimate or ultimates?
Ultimates for sure. Yeah.
How many ultimates do they think there should be in an expansion?
拡張の中で、絶の、数はどのくらい？2つ、3つとか。
3つ欲しいかな、俺は。
私も。
あれば
They
あれば
want
あれだけ
three.
Three?
Yeah,
多ければ
if they
多いだ
could do
け。
three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they can do it, but that would be nice to have three.
Yeah. Would they rather have maybe 2 ultimates and maybe another Baldessian Arsenal, or the one that came out with Baja, the 48-man content?
あ
ボジャみたいな、
あ、はいはいはい。
48人の、コンテンツか、Z か、どっちの方が
あ
欲しい？
それトレードオフか。いや、難しい。
That's a hard question to ask.
Okay, fair.
いや、それなら2絶になっていいから欲しいな、大人数コンテンツ。
So if it's between that, then I'm fine to have 2 ultimate and 1 like 48-man raid.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're kind of here at the end. Sorry it's taken a little while, but this has been a really fun conversation overall. I've really enjoyed talking to him and getting to know everybody on the call. And I guess I would like to give them just a moment here before I wrap up and say the final comments and close out for the audience and everything. Do they have anything else they want to say before we wrap up the show?
本日のモグトークエピソードは、まあ、すぐに終わりますから、一人ずつ、の最後のコメントとか、印象とか、何か伝えたかったら、ぜひ、今、お願いします。
みんな言う？
はい。まあ、誰でも、言わなくても全然大丈夫です。
まあ、俺から行くか。まあ、
OK。
そうですね。フロスティにはこういう機会を作ってくれて本当に感謝してます。海外のチームにも、まあ、ルクレツィアのことを知ってもらえたと思うし、まあ、日本のプレイヤーにもまたさらに広まったと思うんで、またちょっと今後もいろいろ活動していきたいと思ってるんで、応援してもらえればなと思います。よろしくお願いします。
ありがとうございます。じゃあ、一人ずつ、翻訳します。ありがとうございます。Okay, so Wiz wanted to say first, like, thank you so much to Frosty for the opportunity to come on here and speak, and that it was a really great experience to be able to come and speak with you about the world race and everything like that. And from here on, of course, they're going to be doing a lot more. And you know, if everyone is cheering them on, they're really appreciative of that and really grateful for the community. And they're hoping that in the future as well, the community can continue to grow in Japan and overseas.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
and also I just said like everyone can kind of go one at a time. So
yeah, please let them go.
Yeah. Sorry, I should also mention that since that was all in
yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah.
All right, 次の人言いたい人。
じゃあまあどうかな。そうですね。ちょっと前まではレースを観戦してる人としてもちろんモグトークとかいろいろとお世話になってましたし、で今はレースをやる人としてまあそうですね。モグトークでレースを開催してくれてっていうのはとても助かっています。ありがとうございます。ぜひこれからもよろしくお願いします。
So then Corton was just saying, again, like congratulations to everyone who competed and completed the world race, and that he really appreciated the opportunity to come on to MogTalk and be able to speak about it, and yeah, hoping to continue to have opportunities in the future. So thank you very much. All right, 次。
じゃあ行こうかな。
はい。
こんな風に海外のコミュニティと触れ合える機会っていうのが英語を理解してないともあってあんまりないので、今回の機会があってかなり良かったと思います。あと海外のコミュニティの人だともっとコミュニケーションが取れたらいいなと思うんでお願いします。
ありがとうございます。Okay, so Onigishi said that he's really grateful for this opportunity to be able to have a moment to speak with the overseas community. Because he can't speak English himself, of course, it's quite hard to find these opportunities. And so he's really glad to have this moment to be able to connect and speak about everything that's been going on. And he really hopes that there's more opportunities like this in the future as well.
Me too.
Tsugi?
じゃあ、
うん
まあ、みんなと同じで、まあ、英語をあんまり喋れないから、こういうレアな機会をフロスティンには設けていただいて、とっても感謝してます。またワールドファーストってお話ししましょう。
Arigatou gozaimasu. Ark is saying, again, kind of like echoing everyone else's feelings, that as he doesn't speak English, he really doesn't get these types of opportunities much. And so he's really appreciative towards Frosty for facilitating this and making it happen. And also is hoping that after the next world race, that we can have another conversation together.
Yes. That'd be great.
じゃあ、最後にノロミオさん。はい。
Easy English でいくか。First, I'm terribly sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's okay. That's it. 大丈夫です。
Second, thank you for having me here.
Mm.
And last, Frosty, I give you a curse. You will see 0.1% tomorrow.
Oh, thank you so. Why?
He's
Why?
cursing you.
Why curse? Maybe I don't cheer for Lucrezia anymore.
Lucrezia に応援しなくなるかもしれない。その呪いがあると。
No. Okay.
You'll see 0.1% and then you'll clear the poll after. How about that?
That's It's just like when you see 0.1%, you're like a balloon and you just deflate. It's just I don't know if you could even translate that.
その、0.1% を見ると、本当に、心の中の部分が死ぬみたいな感じになるから。
Yes.
I translated it more as a part of you dies inside.
Oh,
when you
yeah,
see
that's
0.1%, so
It's equivalent. Yeah,
it's good enough.
Yeah. But yeah, and I appreciate all of them coming on. It has been a blast. I want to do more of these in the future. I hope we can do more of these in the future. Even if not first place, even if just getting the Japanese perspective after world races, it's really nice. Because I can see they all really care about it, and that means a lot to me because I care about the world race a lot.
フロスティさんの、考えとして、本当に、ルクレイジアたちは、この、MogTalk、のエピソードに参加することは本当に感謝していて、もちろん、将来的に、次のレース勝つかどうかは、気にせずに、本当に、いつか一緒に、もう一回、MogTalkにやろうかなと思ってて、本当に、価値としては、日本の、考えとか意見とか、よく分かってて、それはすごい良かったと思ってます。
And I'm gonna make you translate this too, Chiela.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm gonna make you translate this as well. And if you don't translate it accurately, I will have someone tell me you didn't. But I need to give you a special thank you so much, Chiela. You definitely did a lot of work for us. You're just coming on and helping just for the good of helping out, and it means a lot to me. And I think you've done a great job here. So thank you so much for just being a part of making this happen. Let all the players know I'm thanking you too.
Oh, thank you so much, Frosty.
Yeah.
Okay, 頑張ります。Frosty さんも、私の翻訳もすごい感謝して、私、もちろん、急に、 こんなことを、通訳者として参加するので、本当に、それもすごい感謝しますから、それも翻訳してほしかった。ちょっと恥ずかしいけど、私にとって。
いや、
ありがとうございます
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
あ
ありがとうございます。
全然、
はい
本当に、私にとって、私も、よくレードしていますから、すごい、レースの人たちの意見とか考えとか、それも、習ってすっごい良かったです。ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
出ます。
And everyone's just saying thank you.
Yeah, of
and-
course.
and
They
yeah,
should be.
Yeah.
So you can let them know too. I'm going to go through the last bit. They just hold on for a moment while I go through the last bits of closing up the show, and then you can, if you wouldn't mind translating some of that. They don't have to comment on it if they don't want to. But it's the last bits of the show to just close out
Yeah,
with
sure
the
thing.
audience. Yeah.
いや、じゃあ、フロスティは、最後の、エピソードの部分に関して、ちょっとだけ、話すことがあるんですから、最後まで、待っても、すごい嬉しいんだけど、もちろん、コメントがあれば、伝えても全然大丈夫だけど、しなくても大丈夫です。
OK?
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for watching the show. You've been fantastic being here. These are some of my favorite shows to be able to get together and try to get us. The World Race is something that brings us all together all over the world for Final Fantasy XIV, and being able to bridge some gaps here because of language barriers and everything else really does mean a lot to me. So thank you for watching. I will get this up on YouTube as soon as I can. Hopefully for anyone that's going to write articles about it, you have both sides easily translated. It should be pretty easy for you. Also, if you are curious about what's happening on this channel, tomorrow we are going into the Omega Protocol. Not 0.1% though. We're going to hopefully clear tomorrow and be done. It's been nearly 10 months. It's a very casual approach that we had to it, but it's going to be a very emotional ending. So if you guys want to be around for that, there's a high likelihood we'll have to clear tomorrow. And then we're just going to have a regular weekly stream. We were absent last week due to the holiday, but we will be back again on regular stream schedule next week. We hopefully will have some more shows. One on speedrunning. And another one maybe to go more into lore again. And that should be what you have to look forward to. And I'll let Chiela try to translate all that.
Okay, sounds good. 全員の参加者は、今日のエピソードを見てくれて本当にありがとうございます。レードレースは、世界中の、ファイナルファンタジー14のプレイヤーは、一緒に集めて、本当に、言語問題、を超えて、本当に同じコンテンツに、共有できるようになる、レースのおかげで。もちろん、すぐに、このエピソードは YouTube にアップして、また、誰かが、記事とか、このエピソードに関して記事とか、書くつもりだったら、両方の言語にもあるんですから、多分、そんなに難しくないと、その記事を書くこと。じゃあ、これから、次、チャンネルとして、次のコンテンツについて、興味があったら、オメガ、Z の、最後の部分、希望は、明日倒すだけど、もう10ヶ月、かかりました。ですから、0.1% だけじゃなくて、本当に明日クリアするつもりですけど、その後で、次のMogTalkは、そのスピードランニングの、エピソードと、ファイナルファンタジーロアもう一回、ちょっと、深くに、話して、それも、本当に楽しみにしてください。よろしくお願いします。
わかりました。
OK。
Okay.
OK。
And so, thank you again. Well, last thanks to all the viewers. Thank you, Square Enix. Thank you, Lucrezia. Thank you, Chiela. Thank you, everybody. And with that, I'd like our guests and everyone to wave and say bye. I know they can't see you waving, but do it anyways and say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.